Hello, it's Kitsy Smith again, and I'm your Lenten storyteller for this week. Last week, we talked about the birth of Jesus all the way until he became a man and started becoming a teacher. So I'm going to quickly review what we went over last week with our Faces of Jesus pictures, and then we'll get into another story about Jesus, getting us closer to Easter. In the beginning, Mary and Joseph were the parents of baby Jesus. And when he looked up with them, he immediately saw the cross in Mary's face and also in his father's face, Joseph. As a young man, they gave everything to him as a child to keep him warm, make him safe, and be happy. But as he grew older, he had to become a young boy. And during that time, he actually started talking to the rabbis in Jerusalem. That was when his parents thought they were going home and didn't know where Jesus as a young man was. They were confused why he was there, and he said, "Well, didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" They didn't understand that, but they soon would. Over time, when Jesus got older, he went to the River Jordan, where he asked John the Baptist to baptize him. And when he did, when he was brought out of the water by John, a beautiful dove was over his head, and a voice said, "This is my son, who I am well pleased." And from that time, he was 30 years old, he went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And during that time, he was tempted by a voice which we maybe think is the devil. At that time, Jesus did not let him tempt him. He just said, "You are not going to test God, and someday I will be a king, but not the kind that you think I will be." And during that time, when he was in the desert, he found out what his mission was, to get people to understand who he was and what he was all about. And at that time, after the desert, he started being around people that were ill, or there was something that was different about them. And a lot of people didn't understand why he did that. But he wanted to be able to show his love to all people. This is an example when there was a blind man, and Jesus decided to cure him. And so he put his hands on his eyes and his face, and the man was able to see. Jesus did many of these miracles, and in them, we hear them as stories, or they're also called parables. And they're also about people, how Jesus loved them and healed them and made them whole again. There are other stories that he talked about, and during Passover, when he was a man, Passover was a Jewish holiday, and Jesus entered Jerusalem on a Sunday for the last time. There were people from many lands, and he came into Jerusalem riding a donkey. Lots of people from lots of different places waved palm branches, which was a sign of kings. The following 3 days, people went into the temple to hear Jesus teach. On Wednesday, he said to all the people in the temple, "You need to watch the old woman and the rich man and see what they do." And in that time, the old woman, who was very poor, dropped one coin, her last one, into the money box. And the rich man, who had lots of money, dumped a whole bunch of coins into the money box. And Jesus turned to the people in the temple and said, "Who do you think gave the most?" That is a question to really consider. Was it the woman who gave her last coin, or the rich man who had plenty of money and gave lots of it to the temple? While Jesus was in the temple, guards said, "This Thursday we will take him." So on Wednesday night, Jesus and the 12 disciples went to a house and shared their Last Supper together. After supper, Jesus took bread and gave thanks to God. Then he broke the bread and said, "Whenever you break bread like this and share it, I will be there." He also took a cup of wine, gave thanks, and said, "Whenever you share this wine like this, I will be there." The 12 apostles did not understand, but they did not forget, and later they would understand what those words meant. Judas left the table suddenly after the blessing, and the rest of the disciples went to the Garden of Gethsemane with Jesus to pray. Later, Judas reappeared and greeted Jesus, and this was a signal for the temple guards to take Jesus away. Jesus was taken, and his disciples disappeared. And this is near the end of the story of the cross and resurrection, which you will hear more about next week. I hope you enjoyed this storytelling. I've really enjoyed doing it with you. I hope you have a good week and a good Easter.